Hey, welcome to Geek Freaks. I am Frank, and today I'm joined by Thomas.
Aloha, everybody.
And later today we'll have Squeaks joining us as well. Let's go ahead and get into our question of the week. We have the Krabby Patty coming to real life, right? Wendy's and SpongeBob are teaming together for this, and it made me think, what other fictional food would I want to bring into the real life as well? So I pose this question to you. Is there fictional food you want to bring to your plate?
Yeah, absolutely. I kind of have two options. Okay. One we actually talked about maybe on Challenge Accepted.
Uh-oh.
And another one where I was just like, this would be great, not because it would taste good, but because of what it does. Yeah, this one's from Dragon Ball Z. I wanna bring into real life a senzu bean, you know?
Yeah,
that like heals you up.
Is that what it is? Okay, I've never seen Dragon Ball Z, so you gotta fill me in on all this.
What? Dude, that's crazy. Okay, so senzu beans are like, they're like potions like from the Pokemon universe to like Dragon Ball Z. So you could be like beat to crap, and then all of a sudden you eat a senzu bean, and it's like being you're back up to like peak physical form. And it could, I think it can even like regrow arms and stuff. I don't know how awesome it tastes, but like think about that. Like, oh my God, I feel sore when I go walk my dogs. So just like taking a senzu bean after and just feeling perfectly fine after would be amazing. So
that's just like as soon as you wake up, like having them next to your bed, be like, oh, my back's hurting this morning. Boop, I'm good to go. Better coffee.
Yeah, that would be great.
What's your second one? Because it might be what you said. Challenge Accepted. I'm like, oh shoot, it might be the one I got. What's your second one?
Oh, okay. So the second one was from Kiki's Delivery Service.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. Okay. Right. And it's about like this adorable witch, and she has to like deliver all these baked goods and whatnot. But there's one towards the end of the movie where she kind of goes to this old lady's house and helps her kind of fire up her like wood burning stove. Yeah. And there's like this salmon, or no, it's like not salmon. It's like a fish cake.
That's right.
But like actually like a pie, like almost like a pot pie, but just fish. I always wondered what that tastes like. And I still wonder to this day, like I want to try that.
I think there's a theme park. I bet they have that food in there now. Because I know they did a theme park for it in Japan. That'd be crazy. That's a good, I totally forgot about that. For me, and we did also cover this on Challenge Accepted, is I want the feast from Hook. The imaginary food turned real. And even as a kid, I'm watching this and I'm like, I don't know what that tastes like, but the fact it's like this purple and pink and blue and green.
Blue. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you just had the food fight. And I'm like, that all just sounds so fun. The turkey has like 16 legs and all kinds of crazy things. That to me has always been like, that's the dream food right there. That's the you're on death row and they have to give your last meal is like, find Hook's food. I want it.
Oh man, you know what though? What you just said just kind of made me think of something else. We just saw it in One Piece, like a devil fruit. Like obviously everybody wants the abilities, but I just want to like see what one of those things tastes like.
Yeah, a little sour or something like that. That'd be cool.
Maybe, yeah.
Oh, I'm so ready for season 2. That's coming out on Netflix. The casting has been top notch.
Oh yeah, definitely.
All right, today I want to start off by talking about a very big spoiler out of Agatha All Along. If you guys have been listening to Challenge Accepted, which I know you are, then you know that there's a big reveal in Agatha. So I'm just kind of giving you this little headway that we're getting into that right now. It was confirmed that the, quote, teen from the series is actually Billy, which is the son of Wanda Maximoff. So before we go too far onto this, can you give us the speed run on who is Billy?
Yeah. Okay. So comic version, right? It was. Oh man, this is so convoluted. What is the speed run? Because it jumps around so many. There's like you could take the Mephisto part. You could take she took some of the power from Agatha and then created the kids. You know, long story short, kind of follows what we saw in WandaVision to really, really oversimplify it. And then the twins' spirits are basically reincarnated. And they go into like 2 different kids, Billy Capman and I think Tommy Shepard. And and then Wanda then like re-interacts with them after you follow the Young Avengers. You meet this kid named Billy. He goes by the Asgardian, part of the Young Avengers. He's got lightning powers. He called again Asgardian. He looks kind of more Thor-like than he does like Wanda.
He even has the wings on the side of his face. Yeah.
Yep, exactly. But then he sees Wanda. She kind of helps him out at school. Somehow they like interact with each other. She realizes that it's her son. And then later on down the road, he reconnects with his other brother, Tommy, who becomes Speed. So it's kind of similar to what they've been doing in the MCU. Just they've kind of altered some things, and in the MCU they've kind of taken out the Mephisto of it all.
Do you think that? So yeah, and I think they're going to be kind of retroactively getting into Young Avengers. Which, by the way, guys, if you guys want to read the comic book origin for this, it starts with Young Avengers #1 in 2005. Do you think they will ever bring in the Mephisto part of this?
I mean, I'm still holding out. I think Mephisto shows up at the end. I still think so. I guess I'm more on the fence if Wanda's going to show up or not. That would be so sick. I would love that, but I don't know if that's going to happen. I'm pretty certain we'll see Mephisto because we know Sacha Baron Cohen is cast and has already filmed some things for Ironheart. Like, that's done. So just bring him over to Agatha.
Yeah. One of the key things with Billy's character here is he goes from, Wanda's son. The spirit goes into a kid that is, a Jewish kid that grows up in New York. And so he's dealing with, and he has some mental anxiety issues. I'd probably call them anxiety issues without being, a clinic. And so all that stuff also gets added to his character. And he has the LGBTQ as well behind him. So all that gets added to his character. So as he's getting developed as a character in the comic books, there's a lot of people who identify with Billy. And I personally think that he's such an amazing character. I really love how Doctor Strange assumes that he's going to be the next Sorcerer Supreme, and it kind of gives you this idea like, oh, someday. It's kind of like whenever they show the fast forwards of Damian Wayne, and it's like that really cool looking Batman. They're like, oh, I can't wait for those days.
Yeah.
I hope that they give this version of Billy that kind of weight, where they see him as like, hey, not only is he going to eventually show up in this Young Avengers movie that they're working on, but also could hold his own in a movie of his own like Doctor Strange does. Do you think they'll take that chance?
I don't think he gets his own movie, but I can see a Young Avengers movie happening. And I really now could see Joe Locke with Iman, what is her name? Iman Alani.
Oh, Vellani.
Yeah. Haley Steinfeld, Florence Pugh. We saw the Patriot in Falcon and Winter Soldier. Like all of that would be incredible. So, man, I want to see this kid interact with that team.
And I think with that right now, we're at a time too where, the joke is, and I say this lovingly, that Agatha's the gayest quote unquote show Marvel's got so far. And even Albert Paul's is like, it better be with the work I did on it,
Right.
But so there's more representation for everybody. And again, I'm trying to look at like what character in the MCU is Jewish. I can't think of one right now. So we have that with Billy Kaplan as well. So I really hope that they do explore those corners of his life so that people can find the reason he got so popular in the comic books is because he was new to that, and find that as well in the show. And
that's true.
The MCU.
Yeah. Because technically Moon Knight, but we really didn't get a lot. I think he wears like a yarmulke in one of the episodes, but that was about it. And then the only other Jewish character I know, well, two, is Kitty Pryde. But she goes by Kate now. And then one that they're taking out of Captain America Brave New World, which is Sabre, right? Like that character, I forgot what the actress who's playing her, but she's played a lot of different Jewish roles.
Right.
Yeah, but then I've heard they're cutting all ties from her tie to Israel right now for obviously political reasons right now, and she's going to be more of like a Black Widow or a converted Black Widow now. But she was supposed to be, an Israeli.
She's their equivalent to Captain America for Israel.
Yes.
I remember that now. We're going to do a Reels talk at some point. I messaged you. I was like, hey, this is getting a lot of traction over on Threads. Let's make this our conversation on Reels talk. But I put it out there like
traction.
Yeah. I was like, we got Billy. Where will we see Tommy? So just a real quick touch on that. I think one of the things that people are kind of agreeing on is that's probably why Tommy's on the road why Billy's on the road. Because you get like this kind of like one wish from a genie at the end type of thing. And he's wanting to find Tommy. I think he's probably going to find his mom. I think that there's the way that crown shows up, his look at the end of episode 5 of Agatha All Along really gives me the vibes of Wanda when she's like, I will do anything for my family. And I think Billy's the exact same way, What do you think?
Agreed. I don't think we get Tommy at the end of this. I think we get Wanda for sure, or at least a nod that he knows that's his mom. So I completely on board with you. If I had to plan it out, I don't think I would put Tommy in a movie till the Young Avengers property, till the team assembles. Because if you follow the comics and everything, like they don't have to obviously do this, but it's like he doesn't come until I think like issue 8 or 9. So it's like you can kind of build up to it, and then you can kind of leave it alone. I guess the MCU audience would know that he has a twin brother out there, though. Yeah, I just don't think we're going to get Tommy in this show, though.
We also have Vision Quest coming up, where we're going to be following White Vision, so we could have Tommy there too with his dad.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Dang, and then we could also, I mean, Hawkeye was part of the West Coast Avengers. We could also probably get Kate Bishop in there. Maybe that, and we saw Miss Marvel recruit Kate Bishop. Man, I'm just connecting all the dots in my head out loud right now. Yeah. But maybe that's so maybe that's where Tommy and Billy meet through the West Coast Avengers or Vision Quest. Oh man, that'd be sweet.
And then I think at this point in the comic books, what Billy's most known for is I forget the two titles. First off, one of them is like consort or paramour of Hulkling, and the other one is like a mage of the court, I believe, for Hulkling's empire. And that's a side of the Marvel universe I think they tried a couple times, showing the Kree and this like big war that they got going on with the Skrulls, but they never really do a great job with it. Secret Invasion, I mean, that just sucked, honestly. The Marvels, people didn't give it a chance. They didn't get to see much of it there. But the idea that Hulkling's going to come and unite this like two feuding sides in this one big empire, and Billy's by his side during all this, I hope they do give us a chance to really enjoy that like Game of Thrones style show that's in space. You know, I don't know if they'll take that chance, but Hulkling's a really cool character, and I really hope they don't botch that character too.
Yeah, definitely. I know that there's been a big kind of push petition out there as far as fan casting. So Joe Locke's from the show called Heartstoppers. It's like a really sweet kind of coming of age story. And his like love interest in that show, like, does look like they would be a good Hulkling, actually. So I'm like, just cast that guy. That'd be awesome. But the other part of that too, we've seen, like you were saying, the Korean Skrulls. We know that there's going to be some type of Nova show coming out. And if you have if you have Nova in there and the Nova Corps, like, you know, some type of Nova Corps is trying to be rebuilt. I heard John C. Reilly might even be coming back. Like, he survived.
I heard that too. And I heard Glenn Close is coming back as well.
So okay, imagine now you have the Green Skrull. They're going to unite. And then on the other side, they have the Nova, who are destroyed by the Kree. And since they're aligned, that's an inherent battle right there. Yeah. You have an easy opportunity to kind of bring in this big, epic space story that you were talking about, you know, with Hulkling and Billy.
That's the thing is, you don't need special effects. I mean, you want special effects, but you don't need to lean on them so much, you know. So, and then as a Marvel fan too, you kind of root for the Nova Corps because we've been on their side so many times and we've been against them sometimes. And again with the Kree and like all these factions, and that's how they are in the comic books. I said X-Men comics because I'm thinking of the other ones too.
There are a lot of X-Men comics they're in, so I think that's valid.
But like depending on the storyline, you're either with or against them. And I would like for them to set that up in the MCU so well that we could kind of tap them whenever we need them. And like, say there's after the next saga or whatever, if we have the Annihilation storyline, or if it's Galactus showing up, you use one of those guys as the entry point for them because that's what they're usually used for anyways.
Yeah, I love that you said entry point, because I think the easiest entry point, if you want to talk about a big X-Men villain, that's an easy way to bring in the Shi'ar. Like the Shi'ar is like the biggest alien, fighting force in the galaxy, right? We kind of just saw it in X-Men 97, but man, that now you have this force that can come and take over everybody. Now you'll need the Kree, the Skrull, and maybe the Nova to like stand up against them. And, maybe the X-Men join to also fight against the Shi'ar. It's like, it's just such an easy way to set this stuff up. Man, I just hope the MCU just keeps crushing it so that we can get to that point.
That is so, God. The Shi'ar, now I'm thinking of how the MCU will handle the Shi'ar, like, the way they developed from birds and stuff like that, like you could really toy with that and have fun with it. Mm-hmm. And then we better have a good Professor Xavier by then because we need him to fall in love.
I know. I always think about who the new Professor X would be. I'm not against who's the guy from Breaking Bad, Giancarlo Esposito. I'm not against Giancarlo Esposito, but I'm like, I want to see somebody else too that just gives him a little bit of competition where I'm like, where I could really see Professor X. And we're getting Giancarlo Esposito in this new, Captain America movie.
Yeah, so maybe I think they're going to go with somebody a little bit younger, I think, probably.
Thank you. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah. So that's kind of where we're at with Billy, right? In the comic books, he's on this galactic stage now, but his roots is back where we're at right here with Wanda as their mom. And there's sort of this familiar bond that they have that's so freaking strong. And you're starting to see tendencies shared amongst them. So right now we're seeing the vengeance in his eyes that we see out of Wanda when she's going Scarlet Witch mode. And I would love to see some of the passion that we see out of Vision in the next few episodes. It'll be hard to convey, and I don't know how they would do that, but we've only got a few more episodes of this insanely good show.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know, but I think Joe Locke was an awesome choice. Like, Marvel casting rarely, if ever, misses.
Shame on me for doubting him at first too. I fully do not now. I'm fully on board. Guys, join us over on Challenge Accepted. We cover Agatha all along every week, and we actually have Hangover coming out this week as well. So if you want to revisit one of those classic, just funny movies, that's the way to do it. If you want to jump in on the best Wiccan story, so of course I would start with 2005, Young Avengers #1, but then also there's the Children's Crusade storyline from the Young Avengers, and check that out as well. That's kind of more of the established team. Tommy's on there too at that point. Next up, we're going to be discussing Henry Cavill and yet another geekdom he's trying to overthrow. He's going to be in Voltron leading this new action-adventure, live action is what I mean, movie over Prime. Voltron in the 80s, as we talked about beforehand, doesn't have a major storyline, but they did a reboot in 2016 for Netflix. I highly encourage you guys watching it. I think it was done quite well, but it really expands the story into kind of this royal family aspect, protectors of the universe, protectors of the galaxy. And I think that is the storyline that we'll get for our movie, because otherwise the Voltron movie isn't much of a movie. Henry Cavill taking the lead on this. What are your thoughts on this? Does he need another franchise?
I don't know. The guy deserves everything. Like, give him all the franchises as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's just crazy that he's going to do Warhammer 40K and The Witcher and Voltron before he got to do like another Superman movie. Like, what? That just seems so crazy to me. But
Highlander too, by the way, he's also the new Highlander.
Yeah, exactly. It's like guys everywhere. But I mean, he's such a true fan. It's like he can be a part of anything and everything. Also, like, we just got an insane cameo by him in Deadpool Wolverine. Like, if he's not Wolverine moving forward, then I don't know who you cast. I truthfully don't anymore. But yeah, I mean, he just puts his heart and soul in everything. My question as far as like the Voltron is like, who is he going to be? Like, he's not going to be one of the kids, right?
I think he's going to be, I think he is.
He's going to be like the leader of them.
Yeah, I think he's going to, I think they're going to age up the team for the movie. They could do a younger version of it, but you don't hire Henry Cavill without using him. You know what I'm saying? If he's not that, then he could be the king, but the king's not used very much. It's mostly his daughter. So yeah, it's got to be the leader, right? What do you think?
I don't know. I'm wondering if he is just coming in to be like, he's the leader of the galaxy or whatever the kingdom is, or he's like the top scientist. He's the one that the kids connect with, he's moving into that role where he doesn't. I mean, he's so famous and so popular and so talented. He doesn't have to always just be the action guy. So I think that, there's a room for him to do that, especially if he is going to take over like Warhammer, and then he's going to be in the armor and in the suit and with the chainsaw swords and all that stuff. Like, maybe he just wants to be the guy at the chair. I don't know. That
could be, and it's definitely a good marketing ploy, because there's something about Henry Cavill where his devotion to these fandoms is why we like to see him in them so much. The fact that, like, we know he plays Warhammer, now I'm interested in Warhammer 2 because of him. And so they could just be like, yeah, he's just going to be whatever, the butler that sends them on their way a lot of times. And we would buy it, but man, that would suck. The fact that, matter of fact, he was in Argyle. A lot of the marketing was him in Argyle. I went out and watched it. I know Matthew Vaughn as a director is not generally pretty normative. His stuff's pretty wacky. This was the wackiest yet, and was disappointed though, because Henry Cavill's like basically in the beginning and then like a couple little spots, but he's maybe 10 minutes of the movie. So I'm hoping they'll do that with this, but I could see them pulling that off.
Yeah, I wonder do you know who's making this movie? Like what studio or anything? Because I think that would change up my faith on this or not. I mean, also we already talked about the story of Voltron. It's like they can kind of do whatever they want, really, and like there's so many different ways they could take it. It's
being made by Amazon, so that's MGM. So I'm sure it's going to be an actual MGM project. He could easily be kind of the let's equate it to like the Power Rangers, how they have their the guy sent he could be just the one sending these teens out there, and that would work. It would just suck to waste Henry Cavill on that instead of actually having him in the suit. Because here's the thing, guys, I want him to do his Mission Impossible fist pump in a big armor suit like that so bad.
Yeah. I wonder what point he's going to be like, I'm not doing the fist pump anymore. He's like, I'll do it for Deadpool Wolverine because I like you, Ryan, but I'm not going to do it after this at all anymore.
What he did in Deadpool Wolverine and the claws came out with each of them, which is like, thank you so much. Whoever had that idea, thank you. I appreciate it so much.
Genius.
That's my favorite Mission Impossible too. Oh man. Yet another world for Henry Cavill to conquer. I still want him to join World of Warcraft, make a new World of Warcraft movie, because I think he'd be a fantastic, and he plays WoW a lot. He's a Alliance player, unfortunately. But I think he'd be a fantastic Arthas, the Lich King, who is this, just a real quick rundown. He's a prince of Lordaeron, like a really great place. He's a paladin in training, about to be the next major paladin. There's a disease spreading through one of his towns, and he makes the difficult decision to just kill everybody in town so that the disease won't spread. But it corrupts his soul so much that, like, when he's fighting, this is kind of the first fall for him. And eventually, he takes on the role of being what's called the Lich King in order to prepare for this invasion of demons. But then he becomes basically the big bad when he takes on the poison, essentially, to try to get strong enough to try to take on the bad guys. He becomes the bad guy. And it's one of the best video game villains. It's easily World of Warcraft's best villain. And this guy's a big fan of him. And so,
wow.
Yeah.
I'm sold. I mean, yeah, he can do that too. Like Henry Cavill do whatever he wants while he is still like fit enough to do it and young enough to do it. Like keep letting this guy take over franchise as far as I'm concerned.
Over on the DC side of the world, we have Aaron Pierre just joined the cast of HBO's Lanterns as Jon Stewart. Jon Stewart, I think most people know because of the DC AU's animated Justice League series. This, to me, I think is really cool casting, just because I love Lanterns. I love Green Lanterns, and I think that they're trying to stick as close as they can to the comic books. What's your thoughts on this casting?
Yeah, I mean, by all accounts, it sounds like he's a great actor. Like Rebel Ridge, that movie just like took over and caught on fire. But I haven't seen it yet. It's on my list to watch. But everybody that's seen it, it was like, man, that guy is awesome. So I think I think he has like military background in the movie. So it's like, obviously Jon Stewart has his military background, but also like he seems like he's enacting a plan in Rebel Ridge. Like he's going to be very meticulous and precise because he's an architect from the comics. There's if he's already kind of played a similar role, like this makes a ton of sense. I know I've heard there's like some other pushback online that I probably can't speak to, but he looks really, really awesome. And I'm on board. Him and that Kyle Chandler together, I think, is going to work really well. I mean, I can't believe it. He's only 30 too, which is like, he's so young.
Oh no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
He's also the new Mufasa too. I know that's kind of a big deal that he's playing the new Mufasa.
Oh, that's cool.
But yeah, Jon Stewart, he's the builder, right? He's able to meticulously kind of create his
constructs.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Piece by piece. And so I want to see that side to Hal Jordan, and kind of just like throwing stuff out there versus his like meticulously building things. These two need to be able to bounce off of each other. And so kind of the older guy that's just kind of like, I'll wing it. While we have Jon Stewart that's like, no, let's build something that's going to last or do something stronger or something like that.
Yeah, let's think through the plan a little bit too. Yeah, you're right. I didn't think about that. That's going to be awesome because normally we see like the young gunner, right? Where they're like, I'm going to charge in head first. And the old guy's like, hold on, wait, we're going to like scout it out first. But it's almost going to be a reverse as far as like the way I think of Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart. So that's going to be really cool dynamic. Oh man. Plus like the whole, True Detective aspect of it. And then getting somebody who's written on True Detective to show run this one too is going to be like, holy crap. I love True Detective. So this is going to be awesome.
Yeah, those are always good. And that's what this is going to be based off of. And I was kind of thinking of some ideas for this. My idea is that they find, I'm such a big fan of the Green Martian, Martian Manhunter. What if they find a Green Martian body on there and all of a sudden it's like, oh, not all of them are dead, so they go tell John, and then John's like, well, we have to worry about the White Martians now. So maybe like that's the idea of this detective story, because there has to be a way for it to be a detective story, but we can't just call the police. We need somebody from space. And I think the White Martian, Green Martian conflict is such a good spot for that. That's
a good one. I dig it. I think it's crazy to say this because like everybody who knows DC Comics knows Green Lanterns, right? But I think for people who don't know them, and if like you didn't get, and a lot of people didn't watch Ryan Reynolds' Green Lantern movie, you still need an introduction to Sinestro or the Yellow Corps. So I think there's going to be something where yeah, they're going to go on like some deserted building on a different planet and it's going to be scary. And they're really going to show like the terrifying side to the Yellow Lanterns, right? I mean, like that's how they power their rings. It's fear. So I just think, man, they could do so much cool, creepy things with a Yellow Lantern in space in different weird environments. And we've seen it in Alien, but then taking True Detective. Oh man, this could be a really freaky, scary show too.
They already said it's going to be taking place in Middle America.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did. So how do we make the Yellow Lanterns there? Because I like that idea of using this to bring on Sinestro and stuff like that. But how do you make that on Earth?
No idea. Sinestro wanted to go to Dairy Queen, and I don't know. He starts messing with the tap. I don't know. I'm sure there's a way to do it, but that does change what was going on in my mind.
Yeah. And then I hope we get, at some point, because I know he's going to be Superman, the crazy, hot-headed lunatic sometimes, Guy Garner coming in to do at least a cameo. Talk about like maybe like Hal Jordan is a little bit freeball in there, but nothing like Guy Garner. So that'd be cool too to get a little bit of him in there. Nathan Fillion.
Yeah. That dynamic's going to be great too. And weirdly, maybe to some people, my favorite Green Lantern is Kyle Rayner. And I just liked how he was an artist and he would do the most pop culture-y things, you know. He'd fight somebody with Godzilla or like his own Voltron.
Gundam suits,
Yeah, exactly. Like I love that. So, and that all of them have their own different, it's like the same weapon, but they all wield them differently. I love that aspect.
I love that.
Yeah. And having Nathan Fillion, who's kind of a ball buster that we kind of, I mean, in a ton of roles, but if you watch Guardians of the Galaxy lately with his like son, he's like, oh yeah, I love this one. You know, I think it's just going to be perfect for, especially if this show is really serious and we establish them as being serious, then having a Guy Gardner come in there and like bust their balls is going to be awesome.
That is a great point because I do want this to be serious. I do want this to feel like the Penguin in a way where they are like, hey, just because it's a comic book world doesn't mean it has to be, you know, silly or whatever. This could be for older folks too. I think there's a lot there with this. And then Guy Garner can be that comic relief that comes in that kind of makes it to where it's a little bit more family oriented, not family oriented in the fact that like
it's just lighter.
That's it. Yeah. The comic relief.
Yeah. I'm on board with that. But yeah, I mean, we got to see all these people in action. I think the casting so far for the DCU has looked awesome. Like a lot of these people look like the characters. So not even, you know, even if it's not exactly, like, they look pretty dang close. So I'm on board. He's getting top talent. Oh man, we get Creature Commandos in this year. And then I just can't wait for Superman Legacy.
Yeah.
What is
now it's just called Superman. They got rid of the Legacy. Right. Yeah. Oh, everything about Superman looks good, man. All the little filming on set, stuff like that. I'm like, that's it. So I'm really excited about that too. Let me tell you again about Magic Mind. I've been using them for a while now, and I'll tell you what, it's my go-to productivity boost without that crash that I get from coffee. If you're like me, juggling a ton of projects, whether it's podcasting or I'm gaming hard, or even just like cleaning the house, those everyday tasks, Magic Mind is the perfect mental health performance boost that keeps me focused and on track, but it also keeps me calm. It's packed with all those natural ingredients, right? Ashwagandha, lion's mane, both are really great at reducing stress and increasing focus, that tough balance that we all experience. Personally, I love how it gives me a clean, steady energy without feeling jittery like I do when I'm starting to chug coffee at that 11 o'clock in the morning time. Plus, if you subscribe, you get free shipping and up to 48% off. We got a link in the description. That's magicmind.com/freaks20. And make sure you use my code freaks20. You get 20% off their one-time purchase or even more if you subscribe. Magic Mind's no longer a thing I'm trying. It's a thing I use. Give it a try and let me know what your experience is with Magic Mind. All right, we have Squeaks in now, and we're going to be talking about the Halo Studios announcement. So, Squeaks, first off, you're kind of more of a Sony guy lately, right? You're not playing as much Xbox.
Lately, yes, I have to admit that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, did you play Halo Infinite?
Of course, yeah, I did.
Okay,
Actually, played it like 1.5 times. I went through it, played a lot of multiplayer, and then I decided to get back into the campaign just for fun purposes. I usually beat a Halo campaign a couple times, so yeah, kind of a thing. I myself liked it, but there is something about Halo where it has the same feel from back when you played it on Xbox to Xbox 360 to even to today, where it has the same feel. Well, the Halo entire franchise is getting rebooted in a way. Yeah. They're going to be moving from their old engine, Slipspace, I believe it's called. Yeah, Slipspace engine into the Unreal Engine 5. For those who aren't familiar, Unreal Engine 5 most famously runs Fortnite, but it runs many things. So the game's going to have a new look to it. Now, you've seen these new images of what Master Chief will look like. What's your opinion? Yeah, I mean, it looks great. I think a lot of games are doing this Unreal Engine 5, and it's funny how much it's advertised that act like, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. No, we see this everywhere now.
No, yeah.
But he looks great. He looks great. The weapons look great when they do those little close-up stills. Yeah, I mean, that's all we got though, really. I feel like when it came to it's just these still shots. So once we see it in action is when I'm going to be actually more like impressed and in tune. A little bit
we
more
just
in
got
tune
some
with
like
it.
Him turning a little bit here and
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Nothing crazy.
Granted, they look great, but I mean, that's very little.
To me, it does look super good. It almost looks. This is going to sound crazy. Fake. Yeah. It feels like it's almost like a claymation or something like that.
Yeah,
it just pops differently, and it's not Halo, man. You know.
Yeah,
but, apparently, the Slipspace engine, a lot of the stuff that was on the Slipspace engine that 343 inherited, was there from like the Halo 3, Halo 2 days, and still using those to develop games that are here in 2024. So, understandably, they have to update. We see this all the time with World of Warcraft. Like, they're building a game in 2024 on a game that came out in 2004. So
yeah.
You have to struggle.
Yeah, it is. I like how you said that you pointed out that like it looks fake, right? Like it looks like you said the claymation and whatnot, because it really does. I didn't even think about that, but you're right. Now looking back at these images, you're like, oh shit, it actually does. But I didn't really catch that. I think I saw a lot of the close up of the handgun. You see like the little like I guess material, that's what you call it, kind of like lines through it, whatever is being built. It looks great. Yeah, but are we excited that what are they announcing like their own Halo studio, which I thought was always a thing? So
343 what replaced Bungie, right? Back in Halo 4 days. 343's been the studio in front, but now they're rebranding to the Halo Studios with a refocus on just Halo itself. They're just working on Halo. They're making multiple games in the Halo brand, and they're bringing in a bunch of new talent. They're hiring a lot of new art directors and video game developers and stuff like that for this. It's a refocus on the brand. What is it that the brand has been missing that they need to try to bring back in?
Man, I don't want to say simplicity when it comes to the campaign.
But the Warhammer kind of has simplicity that these used to have that's not there anymore.
Yeah. So if we're rebranding the studio, then maybe just like how do you say, restructure? And I guess we kind of want to see that put into the video game itself, I would say. Maybe like a fresh start. Nothing with like anything that's like coming over from the past games. And we can finally just kind of feel the fresh start with the studio. I know that sounds kind of like cheesy and stuff.
I think you're right, though. Yeah, something where Master Chief, it feels like we're at a weird spot with these last two games, matter of fact, where there's some leftover Cortana storyline. And then we're like, oh, it's Cortana's clone. Yeah. So maybe a fresh story where, sure, it's Master Chief still, because of course it is. But you know what? New ring, new problems, new AI. I think that would be
actually,
a good move.
Do you think it still has to be Master Chief? Can we move on to a new Spartan? Maybe like a rookie Spartan again, like we experienced Master Chief on day one?
I mean, some of the best games, ODST and Reach and stuff like that, didn't have,
Reach was amazing.
I could see that, and this is the time where I think it'd be more acceptable than any other time to do that, to jump into a new franchise.
Why not? Yeah, I think that'd be nice, actually. I'd be down for that. I know a lot of people are probably like, no, you have to have Master Chief, but let's just refresh,
Because there's a problem where Halo is no longer the prestigious title it used to be. When a new Halo game came out, it was an industry-wide news. It was very big. Yes. But it feels like with Halo Infinite, like when that came out, it was like, okay, not a big splash like we have nowadays with other games. So how do they capture that flagship that is Xbox's flagship game? They just are not doing it anymore.
No, I think a lot of it too is that we're moving into this digital world, right? So I went to a Microsoft store somewhere like closer into the Bay Area. And they did this massive release for Halo 4, if I remember right. And it's just a hype, but now it's just a hype behind it that the store put on itself. Obviously, it's Microsoft and it's their game, right? And I think we're moving into this digital world that's just not really a thing anymore, right? And we just pre-order them and just play as soon as the clock hits 12 or whatever it is now. Day before. But I think marketing still has to be there, and Xbox is really just not there at all anymore, right?
They're not marketing their
games. Kind of gone.
Yeah.
No. It makes you think like they don't have any games now. So we got one trailer for Gears of War, right? Not too long ago. And it's been pretty quiet since, right?
It has been quiet. Yeah, nothing else.
So, and I know it's probably far in the future, but no, that's the 2025, right?
It should be 2025, yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know what it's going to take, man. It's going to take more than just fucking slapping a logo on a Rockstar can or Mountain Dew, for me. So
exactly. A great example, Hellblade Senua. One of their major titles is the Hellblade franchise, and the sequel came out, and there are so many people who do not know that Hellblade: Senua 2 is out.
Dude, seriously?
Nothing.
Oh my goodness.
And like that's a reason to sell Xboxes, that game, and it is a very good game. I played it; it scared the hell out of me, but it's just a very good game. I do feel like you're right. Xbox has to revisiting their marketing, and there has to be this thing where I think Sony does a really good job. Where like when a new God of War comes out, we see gigantic axes in the middle of London, or when the new Spider-Man game comes out, they suspend a car with the spider webs in the middle of New York.
Yeah.
Let's kind of get some of those going, maybe.
Yeah.
But there has to be something. It could still be an event. It doesn't have to necessarily be where you're going to a store, but there could still be an event.
Yeah. And Halo will be easy when they do like an event or something like that, right? Because Halo is, I don't want to say like a household name, but I mean, you know, for the video gamer, it's a household name. And this thing's so massive that, I mean, it might not be going anymore, but it had its own like TV series. I don't know. Yeah. I don't know if it's a keep us updated type thing or if it's doing a special event like that. I'm not too sure what it's going to take for Xbox. They got to get their shit together when it comes to marketing. Yeah.
And then speaking to the new engine with Unreal Engine 5, one of the key aspects of Unreal Engine 5 is it is so universal now. Unreal in general, Unreal Engine 4 lasted a very long time, and it makes it more accessible to other consoles. Do you think that we will see a Halo on PlayStation?
It's almost like this secrecy with Phil Spencer that wants what he said not too long ago, that a world where we can all just play games no matter on what console, right? I don't see that really ever happening, but because what did he say? He wanted something that just like you're buying the console itself now, not just because it's the game, so you got to buy your favorite hardware. I don't know, man. I think that if that's the case, I don't know if that's a miss though, right? Like, why do I need to buy your product? Right. You know, yeah, like why do I need to buy your product? Yeah, you're making money on the games, but then I feel like as a company, you're not really supporting me with your like newer technology and advancements and stuff like that. Like you're saying basically like, fuck it, you know, who cares about Xbox anymore? But we got this game for you. You can just play on the fucking Luna, whatever, you know?
That's true.
Like,
yeah, with it being an Unreal Engine 5, it could be pretty much accessible to anything. I believe Unreal Engine 5 is supported through console. I think Luna, all of them.
Do you think it's important for Xbox to still be Xbox? Do you think it's like they should not like let go of the identity and just put out games only?
Well, some of the executives at Xbox have said that, no, we're going to continue to push the actual consoles, to push the Xbox brand. That's not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. But they have not proven it. That's just been unspoken, but not practiced yet. Because we have the new Indiana Jones. You guys bought Bethesda. Yeah, this new Indiana Jones coming out. And now that's coming out to PlayStation a few months after it comes out to Xbox. Mm-hmm. I think that might be a smart business move in one way, just because you give a second life to a game after its initial release. And if I could maybe see that with Halo, maybe Halo, whatever this is going to be called, 6, comes out on Xbox and then a year later on PlayStation, that seems kind of fair to me. But it would have to take like that long of a wait for it to not be justified. Yeah. Yeah,
it almost be like something where, God, it's been a while, right? It's what was it? Last of Us 1 got a PC reboot or PC something, right?
Yeah.
Kind of, maybe number 2, whatever. And that was a huge, gap in time. Man, but I could just see. So what Xbox is doing that really pisses me off too when it comes to marketing or just putting out like products is sweepstakes. Stop fucking putting sweepstakes to your products and actually release them and let people like get that exclusivity of the part where like I got in line soon, when I logged in.
Yes.
And what I'm talking about is they had an X-Men release where they did X-Men colors for different controllers for the X-Men 97.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I can make that in the Xbox customization controller ID, something like that, whatever. Mm-hmm. But it's like, well, yeah, but it also came in a packaging of like a plastic action figure. So I'm like, that's hot too. Okay. And the second thing is you brought up Indiana Jones. They did a sweepstakes for Xbox and Indiana Jones Xbox and controller. Like, holy shit, bro. Like to pull people in, put things out like that, because you're going to make me want to give mine away. And I want the Indiana Jones one. But then you tie that into like, okay, yeah, it comes with the game or whatever. So I can see it again. They already did a Halo one before. For this one, you could do that again. And I feel like that gets like some type of marketing as well, like
definitely the marketing is an issue. But with this new era of Halo, we're going to be getting multiple games across the brand. So clearly we're going to have that first person shooter. They tried before with that RTS style Halo Wars. Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd want to see in the Halo world? Maybe we can get an Assassin's Creed type sword-based game, maybe.
Okay, that'd be neat. If you were playing on the Covenant side, that'd be kind of neat. I don't know. I'm just thinking because War of the Swords. I'm thinking of the swords, right? And I'm thinking of originally. What I would like to see though is a Battlefront version of Halo, where it's well, I guess it could be first person now that they have it, but a third person.
I'm already signing up for this, man.
Yeah. Where it's basically essentially just chaos, and you can be to the point where like you're just a Marine, right? Whatever the UNSC.
Yeah.
Whatever. And that's like your stormtrooper, right? But then you get your points to be like, oh fuck, I'm dropping in the Spartan now,
Yeah.
But just like complete chaos, something like that, where we haven't touched the Halo Wars, they stopped that too, and it's been a long time since then. So I don't know if that just it might have sold well. I don't know, it's been so many years now.
It's been a lot of years.
But it'd be sweet to see something different. Now, if the studio is going to focus on this, like the side games and whatnot, why not try to think of like something you never done before,
Might as well. But this answers that big problem we've had before with exclusivities, because if you're now giving a studio free reign with a generally Xbox exclusive franchise to start putting out other things, and every year we could have a different Halo game coming out that feels like, I get the Xbox because I like all the Halo exclusives that come out.
Oh yeah.
And then say maybe a year after they release on Xbox, they do reach PlayStation or PC. They'll release PC right away. But I think that might be their answer that they desperately need, like this exclusivity thing. Of course, marketing. I could see them doing like, oh, you like Bloodborne? Okay, we're gonna give you a Souls-like Halo universe game.
Oh man, yeah.
What's the other one that everybody was playing? Warhammer's a big one now, but the one right before that everybody was playing.
Yeah.
Just kind of like your Battlefront. Yeah, they could just keep throwing these games that they don't necessarily need to be super expensive to develop, but if they keep putting them in this Halo universe, it tells you right away that this is an Xbox franchise. And of course, you still have that flagship game that's the highest quality game you guys put out. It shows off the hardware that you purchase, but it doesn't necessarily need to be the only thing that's going out there.
Yeah, it's almost like you don't want to dilute the like series, but it's what pulled me in to get my Xbox. It's exclusivity. I had an Xbox S, and what I have it? Oh, for Starfield. But then I was like, man, I'm really enjoying Starfield. I upgraded to the X. So like, I didn't no need to at all, but I ended up doing it. And that's what, honestly, that still works. It still works. If you're going to put out a whole universe, for me, it would be like Gears of War. If you're going to tell me that every year there's a Gears of War game, no matter if it's like the Gears Tactics or, something new like we're talking about with Halo, I'm sold. Like, I'm going to invest a lot of my money in the Xbox now.
I think that's the future of a Halo. They literally hired new leadership at the studio. They're hiring a bunch of new in the world where we're constantly seeing layoffs, including at Microsoft. To see that there's a company out there that's hiring new people, that's really good to see. Again, 343 is now actually called Halo Studio, and that's the future. We'll see how it goes. 25-year-old engine that they're building on. That's the slip space. So no wonder why they're struggling with that thing. Unreal. For sure. The Silent Hour is new today on digital. Joe Kinnaman stars as a detective guarding a deaf witness marked for death after seeing a gang murder. Trapped by the killers, they have to outsmart them to survive. Buy or rent The Silent Hour now, rated R from Republic Pictures. Let's go to our review for Joker Folia. Dude, you had a chance to watch this. What'd you think of it?
Sure did. This was a while ago now, but this is my take. I think there's a lot of great things about it. It's shot really well. There's actually a lot of great acting in it, but none of it feels really good. None of it's super entertaining. And I think the goal of it was to tear down everything that they set up in the first movie. Yeah. So you're like, if you really liked the first movie, I think you're going to be sad. If you really like DC, what they do with some of the characters, I think you're going to be sad. If you like musicals, well, Lady Gaga doesn't always sing great in the movie. She does sometimes, but Joaquin Phoenix isn't my favorite singer, so I think you're gonna be sad. I don't know who this movie's for.
I know you don't want to spoil anything necessarily, but how is it that it ruins the first movie? Because that seems to be a consensus across the board.
Well, in the first movie, you're very convinced that Arthur Fleck is the Joker, right? He goes on this journey. You see how this very sympathetic man who's obviously dealing with a lot of mental illness can go and turn into like a homicidal maniac. And then this movie tries to go back and look at everything you saw in the last movie and either say that it wasn't him, he doesn't believe it was him, or he somebody else is kind of dictating who and what he's doing.
And does that actively hurt the first movie then?
So I think there's a big consensus of people online, and I'm not one to usually just agree with people online, but the more I kind of thought about it after the theater, the more it does feel like, and this will be a spoiler, turn away, everybody, skip ahead 10 seconds. The more I thought about the ending of this last movie, where can I spoil it for you?
Go ahead, as long as you put that spoiler warning in. Yeah, I'm fine too. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so he gets called out he's in the jail again. All that for nothing. He goes back into jail. He's going around. One of the guards says, "Hey, there's somebody here to visit you." So he walks around the corner, and then there's another inmate that stops him. He says, "Hey, Joker, I want to tell you a joke really quick." Tells him a joke very similar to what he told Arthur Murray, and then ends up just stabbing him. He falls to the wall, falls over, and just dies. And then the guy basically like cuts the Glasgow smile into him. You can't really see it. It's all blurry. And then he laughs like the Joker. So you realize like the last two movies, we've been watching a dude named Arthur Fleck who wasn't the Joker. He just inspired the Joker.
Oh, that's why you asked about Gotham earlier.
Yes. Before we started recording, I was like, well, how's something Monahan? I forgot Cameron Monahan.
Yeah, Cameron. Yeah.
Yeah. But
it's exactly that in Gotham. And was so disappointing when that happened. So now I'm disappointed with this. Shit.
Yeah. And I tend to agree with everybody because you really think about it and you go on this crazy long journey. It's like, you just devoted almost 5 hours of your life to watching this guy, and he's not the Joker. And the movie's called The Joker. So it is like a little, again, I know people have said like it's the influence of Arthur Fleck creating the Joker, creating the madness in the city. Like, yeah, I get that. But it's still just a dude who's not the Joker. Like, right. I don't know. Didn't land for me super well. I appreciate what was done in the movie. There's a lot of great artistic things about it, but I still I don't like it.
Visually, does it hold up, or is it? I know that having to bring in a lot of musical elements can shift things over, and I know that there are some, for better term, a way to say it is a dream sequence kind of moments. How does that land for you?
Yeah, visually it's awesome, but even in the musical moments, like they don't even go big enough. Mm-hmm. It's kind of plain. Like he's kind of all of a sudden will turn into his Joker form, and he'll be with Harley, and they're dancing, they're singing, but it's plain backgrounds. It almost looks like they try to create it as a stage. Like they wanted you to look at it and be like, that's a stage. Okay. Yeah, but not theatrical in a way that's like, oh my gosh, look at this. Look at how they're performing. Look at all these lights. Like, you compare it to like a Hamilton or a Rent or something like that, where it's like, whoa, these crazy sets. It's not. It's just a little light, and it looks like an undressed set. It's so weird. There's no spectacle to it. And then, this argument has been made a lot of different places. The music of the musicals don't really progress the story. They have nothing to do with the story, really. I didn't see anything, like normally musicals, you have a song and that is showing the inner dialogue of the characters, and it's taking you from one point to the next point. And you're like, this is their realization. That's not in this movie. It just seems like a random ass song followed by a random ass song followed by a random ass song.
That's ill interesting. So I wonder if, because Todd Phillips, we just actually covered Hangover on John Accepted, which came out this week, by the way, guys. And that kind of doesn't feel like the kind of guy that can make a musical. And I think, no, it's not.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's kind of cool. Like like I said, they do kind of sing well. And Lady Gaga has her moments where she doesn't just sing, she sings, like real sangs from the heart. And that's great. There's only one musical part in the whole movie, and it's towards the beginning. They're kind of trying to escape Arkham. That's the only musical element for me that actually like related to the story and kind of made sense. The rest of them, you're like, what does this have to do with? Like, it just, I get it. We already know he's crazy. Like, it has nothing to do with anything. So, yeah, it's a pretty interesting movie.
Is this worth seeing in theaters?
No, I don't think so.
Is it worth streaming?
Yeah, I mean, I think there would be things that people appreciate. Like I got to just guest on a show called Batman by the Numbers, and both those guys are, fantastic reviewers and writers. They write for different online critique movie sites and everything, and they both liked it. They didn't love it, but they liked it, and I'm like, I don't. And they found some things that were very interesting about it. And I was like, man, I didn't see it from that perspective. I hear what you're saying. Yes, that is to be admired, but it still, for me, just didn't work. It didn't land. Again, I was trying to think of, like, while I'm watching it too, half of the movie, or like the middle part of the movie, is in a courtroom, right? And like, it's not interesting courtroom drama. It's pretty dry. It's pretty boring. There's like one part in there that's kind of interesting, where it was like the little person from the first movie. He kind of goes up on the stand, and Arthur cross-examines him. And like, that's probably the only interesting part of the trial for me. And but so I think artsy people, like movie fans, will like this, but comic fans, I don't think so. Musical fans, I don't think so. So yeah, I think you have to be in that auteur.
We have we've seen that in the past, where it's like, let's just use, we know comic book fans will buy a ticket, and so let's use that to sell this movie. It's a shame, because then you have to service those fans, you know? And when you do a movie like this, where basically you're just making a passion project or a fan project, it sounds like, and you throw the name Joker on it, and then you even kind of spit in the fan's face at the end with like, fake out that's actually not Joker. It denigrates your fan base and makes them where they second guess everything you do now. Like if Todd Phillips announces Joker 3, nobody's lining up for that movie like they did for Joker 2.
I mean, this movie did less money than Madam Web. I don't think they're getting Joker 3, right?
Because Madam Web at least was trying to follow a comic booky kind of story, you know?
Right.
Say what you will about that. Like, written down, Madam Web looks better than it is. That's a
yeah. It like plays better than the Joker, which is crazy to say, right? It's like, so it like looks way worse to me. The special effects and all that are horrible in that movie, but it like plays better. And it's like, how could a movie play better than Joker 1 that made $1 billion and got all these Academy Awards? You know, it's really crazy. And it also makes sense why James Gunn and Peter Safran didn't put the DC logo on it, right? That we just got from what movie or show that just came out?
The Penguin has it on it.
Penguin, yes. Yeah,
has exactly. The actual DC studio. So that's a great point, because this is very much the Shazam thing, where after something comes out, the movie comes out, it bombs hard, and then we find out, like, you hear complaining from the directors and the actors. And it's like, it's interesting you guys didn't do that beforehand when we were having to go out and watch this crap. Give us the heads up beforehand that you guys think it sucks. But of course, that's just not how the business works. But yeah, after this starts to bomb, then we hear that like Todd Phillips refused to work with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and they had no support from Warner Bros. Warner Bros. Just let them do their own thing. That, of course, it's not going to be very comic booky or a hero story in any, or villain story, I guess, in any way. Do you think it would have helped? Obviously, it would have helped, right? Working with Peter and James.
Oh my God, yeah, because there's a cohesive vision, and this movie needed to be reviewed by somebody, even like pre-screenings. So they could have got audience reactions or something.
They did not do any pre-screenings, by the way. Yeah, great point. Great shout out.
Like, that's the least they could have done. And James Gunn, I think, would have forced them to do that or just tweak a few things. And it didn't have any of that. So, you know, he had unchecked power, I guess, Todd Phillips, and he used it. He was like, this is what I want to make. You already paid me. I don't care. Yeah. So here we go.
Let's get a score on this out of 10. What'd you think?
Oh, man, out of 10. I'm gonna go, man, this might even be generous. I'm gonna go with a 4 out of 10.
That is so rough for an actors that I really appreciate and stuff, and the director I normally like. That's crazy.
And don't get me wrong, I think Lady Gaga is doing some amazing things in it. I think she's so talented. I don't really like what they do with Harley Quinn in this movie either. It's a different interpretation, but it's not a cool interpretation like we just got from like Batman, the new Cape Crusader. You know, like kind of mess with that Harley Quinn origin. Yeah. It's not that. And then Joaquin Phoenix is still doing his thing. It's just so not interesting for the middle part. It's just weird.
Damn. What a shame. I'll be streaming it though. I will at least do that much. That sounds like just for Joaquin Phoenix's performance alone. I'll be doing it. Today we are with SG Blaise from The Last Luminian. How you doing, SG?
I'm doing wonderful, Frank. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course. And returning, we have the wonderful Jenny Stevens. How you doing, Jenny?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
Wonderful. Jenny, it's been too long since we've talked. Can you kind of fill people in on what you do? Because I just love following you online.
Well, that's lovely. I am essentially a fandom development, which is really audience development And I make sure that all of our geek fans get to be in touch with the IPs they love, and that the IPs they love are sustaining and spending time with them, building relationships as opposed to just doing campaigns. So that's what I do. And I make sure that those relationships are built up and that we get to create a lot of really fun content from the IP to the fans.
That's so useful. I mean, it's hard to really, once you get in the zone on your work, the creating part, you forget that you have to kind of share it, and it's a back and forth with your fandom. So that's perfect.
Yeah. And it's hard sometimes for IPs to try to, especially small independent ones like SG, where, oh, wait, now I got to go market my things. And they, SG is going to talk about this, but she loves her fans. So a lot of what she wants to spend time doing is being there in person, engaging. And so what I can do is I can help lift that up as opposed to her having to worry about the machine that's behind it.
Yeah. Now, SG, you are the writer of this fantastic fantasy sci-fi series. We have Lila, who's this warrior princess, really amazing character. I'm in the middle of the last Luminia myself. Can you kind of break down what this world is like for the people at home?
Absolutely. I like to call the Last Luminia series as Star Wars meets Lord of the Rings meets Princess Bride. It's PG-13, clean language, kissing only, no chili peppers here. It's perfect for fans of all those movies and audience of 14 plus. We do have some battle scenes, but otherwise it's a clean coming of age story of this rebel princess who doesn't need saving.
That is always nice to see. And she has some friends along the way. We have Colum and Glenna. What's this friendship like? And is that something that you wanted to pull from your own life?
I love their friendship, Frank, because they're often trying to help her and they hinder her. And also, I love that Callum and of course we have Arof. They're contrasting each other of what kind of love Lila could have. And then we have Glenna, who's supposed to help her, supposed to be the best friend, but she's judging the main hero to the point that they have a big fight. And I love seeing how the hero works these issues out and how she chooses her true love and how she maintains her friendship with Glenna.
And that's something that, you're talking about this being, good for the younger readers and stuff like that. Those are the struggles they're dealing with every day. And it's hard to find something that's echoing that voice that they're constantly fighting with, at school and with their friends. And so it's good to see that there's a place for it right here. Amazing.
Thank you.
For those who did not know about this book, what was the start for you? Where did you get this idea? How did you want to invest in this world?
The idea for this book series, Frank, came to me in a dream. I was in Austria during a cross-country family vacation. Of all the places, it had to be Austria. I woke up and it was middle of the night, pitch black, and I had this idea and I'm trying to type it up on my phone and it keeps growing and growing and it's 3 books. And it took 6 years to develop that idea and now we're on book 5. Coming out this December. I keep pinching myself, Frank. What an amazing ride.
And it's well received. Everybody I see talk about this book is loving it, the series. And so it shows that dream out in the middle of Austria now is something in people's hands, and that's just really fun to see.
Thank you. It's absolutely a pleasure.
That is amazing. So from that original dream into what we have today, how has that changed? And what kind of themes from the real world did you want to implement as you went along?
I definitely noticed that what was happening in my life affected the books. And it's very interesting because I noticed after the books were written. Yeah. So one of them, there is an element of grief. Our main hero is dealing with grief. She has struggle in her friendship, in her family. She doesn't know where she belongs. When I came to this country, believe it or not, I couldn't speak a word in English. So I was definitely searching for where do I fit in? How am I going to follow my dream when I thought I'm going to be writing books in Hungarian because I was born in Hungary. So it was a very interesting journey of self-discovery, both for myself as the author and for my hero, who also deals with claustrophobia-induced panic attacks, who deals with meddling bosses, gods, those are her bosses. She deals with, pesky love interest. There's so much going on that I hope every reader finds something that they can relate to.
Now, how do you balance that? How do you not dive too much into your personal life, being like, claustrophobia, for example, let's just use that. I've had this episode in the past or whatever. and try to bring it back to a story because it feels like it would be too easy to be too invested.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm definitely not writing a memoir. I can tell you that, Frank. I've been able to piece my life together. But although my friends definitely pick on certain things that they know.
Okay.
The way I balance this, Frank, is that I use it as an inspiration. I tap into the feelings, the experiences. How do I describe the pain that means when you break up with someone, or the pain of losing a parent? That's where I take my inspiration from, and I infuse it into the books.
And that right
I want
there,
to say something.
Yes,
wait, because this is really important. I'm so sorry.
No.
This is huge. This is where so many of the fans that talk to SG, so they've read the book, they've connected. That emotional connection that they have in that story, so much sci-fi, I love it. I read an enormous amount of it, but a lot of it can be very dystopian and very arm's length, or many times very distant, very hard to connect. It may be a great analogy for what's going on in our world, but you may not connect to it. SG's story is one of the reasons it makes my job so easy for her to do work with her, is the fans read it, they connect, then they meet her, and then they really get it. And it's there's that personalization, SG, that you put in that makes it such a connection for fans. And honestly, that's what studios and big brands would beg for, and it's what you've written naturally into your books.
Thank you, Jenny. That means a lot coming from you.
Well, and to reiterate that too, SG, and another thing to think about is, you talked about, having to basically learn a language to be able to write in that language. What you're talking about, the emotions, that's universal. That goes beyond just in English or Hungarian. That everybody understands, and that's why something like Pixar does well. Well, that's why everybody identifies with The Last Luminian, is they see it right there. That's great.
Thank you.
Now, going into this idea that we're talking about sci-fi, and again, it has that lens on our modern day problems, but we also have so much fantasy, which I'm a big fan of. How do you blend those two together in one world?
The way I blend sci-fi with fantasy is that I create a world that has technology that affects them. Then I create space travel, and then there is a war that's intergalactic, but we have revolutions. So I'm connecting them and looking at how does this affect. Are they as advanced technologically as they are advanced by societal issues, right? And often the answer is it's not balanced. So I try to showcase that if we have someone who's way too progressed by technology, but they're behind the way the society progresses, that's an issue. So it allows me to create a platform where I can magnify certain issues that we may encounter in our own lives.
Yeah. And then how do you bring in the fantasy elements to that to kind of enhance the experience?
The way I bring in the fantasy element is there is magic everywhere. I love magic so much that in the stories, it's inherent. Everyone knows about it. And then we have the gods, of course. We have magical creatures. And then our main hero gets to discover her own magic. And it's not always the way it should. So we have mystery tied to it that allows the readers to go on this journey with the main hero to discover the mysteries and secrets together.
Now, we have actually a couple gods in the story. We have I'm reading this, so I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but Lumia, the goddess that she's working with, right? Cool, got that one. And then we also have other gods that are not necessarily on her side, the god of chaos. How does that relationship work? Because it's kind of a boss, it's kind of something you're worshiping. That's a tough one to do.
Oh, absolutely. When I thought of these two gods, I thought of having, someone who's maybe inherently evil and someone who's inherently good. But what if that's only the surface? What if they actually have human emotions? They have jealousy, they have envy, and they lie, right? So they have all these human aspects to them. And it's not always the God you think that lies. It's always someone else. So I like to play with how do you look at yourself and how do you act? And it can be a big difference between the two.
And then going back to the younger reader who deals with adults that are doing what's best for their interests, sometimes not always in the interest of what they think they want. Is there something there with like parenting or with authority figures that people are coming across that you wanted to make sure to implement?
Well, I'm a parent myself. I have a 19-year-old son. That's not need parenting anymore. So definitely there is a bit of struggle there, but it's getting better, knock on wood. And also I was a child myself too. And, my mom lives with us. So she still sometimes looks at me as that 14-year-old girl who needs help, who needs guidance, as opposed to, I'm not telling you how old I am, 46, but it's an interesting situation of how do you deal with that? And that is a great question, Frank, because that's what I'm trying to showcase, that not just Lila, but all the other characters encounter this issue where someone with good intention tries to help them. Does that mean that they have to take that road, or are there other options that they just haven't thought of yet?
Now, Jenny, this world, of course, is very complicated and has multiple layers. How do you pitch that to the fans at home, and what parts are you seeing them gravitate to the most?
It is a huge world building universe, but I mean, Frank, you know me well enough by now that that's, literally like I'm a kid in a candy shop, right? It's like, oh, okay. Darn, it's a big world building universe that she's built. What a bummer. So there's a couple of things. So what you always want to do is talk with your client. So in this case, getting to know SG was a huge part. And we probably spent about 3 months. So I read all the books, but I also read the world building Bibles, and she's got very, very, very in-depth world building Bibles. And what that allows me to do is talk with SG just like you are right now. And you find out, okay, what are our primary? Who's our primary character? What's the primary theme? Overarching. So the 7 Galaxies Chronicles, her entire series, what's the overarching? And since SG, you've got it planned, that was something that she could give me. Then I look at it as what's the secondary. So in each of these books that we're going to start with the Last Luminian, the first one, what is the primary conflict? What's that plot? Who's the main character? And in this case, it's Leela, but it's also, and this always sells well, her found family. I cannot go wrong with a sci-fi fantasy subgenre with a found family. She's given me literally the keys to the kingdom of fandom for me to be able to go out and just go, hey guys, found family, and everybody just rushes over. But then in addition to that, what we get to do is we get to play with a lot of content. So there are so many cool characters, and then you've got this world building. And to go back to your question about the sci-fi fantasy combination, one of the things that I'm finding from the marketing side, and this is, I'm sorry, SG, you've heard me pound this drum so much in the past 6 months, but one of the things that's been very frustrating for me as a fan, but also as a marketer in fandom, is that you have military sci-fi and you have high fantasy. And there isn't a lot that's marketed in between. There are quite a few authors who are out there really growing this subgenre. But for one thing, Goodreads, Amazon, the rest of them, they don't really know how to label it. You're either dumped in action adventure or just sci-fi or just fantasy. So how do fans find you? And that's where we've been having a lot of fun, really pushing the combination of sci-fi fantasy and using that as a hook to get people in addition to Leela, found family, the huge universe that they're living in, because that appeals to an enormous spectrum, whether you're 13 or 60, male or female. It applies and appeals to everybody, which has been very fun at events in our marketing, reaching out to fans and developing all of the online communities that we've got.
Yeah. Immediately when you say found family, right away, Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Trek cruise, it just starts popping in right away. And then there's kind of this growing trend. It's funny to say growing trend. They're literally celebrating their 50th anniversary right now, but D&D is on the rise again. And that is very much a found family adventuring through a world. And that puts fantasy from high-end fantasy, this elves talking in a language we don't quite understand, to, hey, you just got into a tavern brawl. And so, it's nice to kind of see that the world is starting to embrace this new version, or actually very well-worn version of fantasy out there.
Yeah, and then there's a lot of us who've been out there doing this as geeks. I mean, I'm old. I know I joke about that with you a lot, but for me, it's always been part of what I thought was really fun about reading or going to the movies or working in entertainment. What's amazing is that we really are at a pretty cool crossroads right now. I mean, it really is people my age in charge who are saying, oh yeah, you know what, a D&D game or a tabletop game or a comic book or sci-fi fantasy, let's bring it on, let's do it. we're very lucky that that's where we are. Yeah. I don't feel that this is a flash in the pan either. It has become too ingrained in our entertainment cloth right now. It really is woven into everything that we're doing, that it isn't the new thing. When I was starting, it was the new thing. Nobody wanted to do it. Nobody wanted to be involved. And that's why I got to do great projects, because I volunteered and nobody cared. But now the beauty of this is I tell people, just friends that I've worked with, hey, this is the IP I'm working with, and this is the author and what she's done. And they get excited with my 30-second pitch. Mm-hmm. So it is a really good time. And it's an exciting time to have stories like SG's to bring out there.
Yeah. And then it's the characters that people attach to, right? That let them explore this world. And SG, I'd like to talk to you about this. With Leela, how do you keep this someone who's growing so much, someone who is relatable to people at home, but is also in a galactic war? How do you keep Leela relatable to the readers at home?
The way I keep her relatable, Frank, is that I give her faults. You know, she has all these, wrong self-belief that at the start of the story, she thinks that she can't do something, she doesn't have the magic. So she starts the story by having this false belief. And as the story progresses, with the help of friends and with the help of opponent, believe it or not, while the opponent challenges her, she starts to realize that she's wrong, that she's not strong, or she's wrong, that she is not good enough, right? So the more she encounters these problems, the more she realizes that she is so much more than she imagined. And that's the beauty of the story, is that as we see the hero do that, the readers can experience that in their own life and experience that self-revelation that they are stronger than they know.
I really hope the readers embrace that. They start to see the growth and start to see it in themselves and follow through with that as well. That is truly wonderful. Now, looking at this, again, this galactic world you build, what was your primary, what was your first steps into this world building? Did you want to create the character first, or were you wanting to build the world first? And then in talking about the world, how do you go about that? Because I think there's so many people right now, we go back to D&D as a DM and stuff like that, where you're like, oh, I want to make sure to focus on this town. Where do you start? It just feels like it's an endless project.
It definitely feels like it's an endless project, Frank. And the way I start to orient myself is I have 2 steps when it comes to the world building. I have my structural step, where I create a world that challenges the hero's weakness, which is that wrong self-belief. And that is, if it's she believes she's not good enough, then I create a patriarchal world that challenges her. Well, how do you fit into this world if you already don't think you're good enough, right? I create a world that challenges her, and everything, from the weather to the mountains is there on a purpose. And then I spend months on diving deep into what does the daily life look like on this world? Who are these people? What's their history? What kind of clothing they wear? What's their food? And then you get to see this much in the books, because world building tends to be passive and storytelling is a very active way of sharing the story. So I usually balance it with just sprinkling in that world building that allows you to immerse yourself with the hero.
It's funny to hear you say that, because, when you are kind of building this world out in your mind, as a novice, you're driving around thinking about it. You're driving around thinking about like, oh, the weather today would be like this, and this is what the townsfolk would be doing. And to hear an author actually put that out there and say like, okay, now you have to scale it back and actually make it's good advice for us at home trying to do this ourselves.
But as the marketer, don't get rid of it, because that is, sorry, it's the marketer in me, but also the geek in me. Don't get rid of that, because that is unbelievable, just gold for me. Mm-hmm. I know we don't get a lot of it in the books, but the beauty of that is that we can create in the marketing side of it branded content that does explore that. And how cool is that you get to do some supplemental bridge in between the books that dives into this world that SG you couldn't write about, because that wasn't the focus of book 5 that's coming out. But over here, I've already got notes, right? I've got like, okay, what are we going to do in January and February? And it's fun to do that. So Frank, don't ever get rid of it, because it is gold for you and for whoever helps you push the books out and connect with your fandom.
And
absolutely. And I'm sorry, Frank. Just one. If anyone needs that world building, Patricia Reedy is WREDE, and she's a Sci-Fi Fantasy Writers of America member. She put up these questions. It's literally 500 questions that tackles these aspects. Wow. That's what I use. And I go through these questions every single book. I delete what I don't need. I write what I need. That's how I create my world building. Highly recommend to anyone.
Okay, I just learned that.
Yeah. That is amazing. I'm going to put a link to that in the description as well. That is pretty neat to see.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. And then also just what you're saying there, Jenny, too, when you're doing that, when you're pulling from something that's, native to the world, it doesn't feel forced, because so many times when you're hearing about marketing, it feels like it's forced content, that they're having to drag something out. But when it's natural, when it's just really a part of the world, it's easier to embrace as a fan.
It is. And it's one of the reasons I left what I was doing with the studios is because there was so much windowing, and you and I've talked about this, Frank, a lot, and SG, we've talked about it, that campaigns are a lot of times still just based around the release of the book, the film, the movie, the streaming, the music. And then the fans are dropped off a cliff right after. There's called a 6-week tail is what you usually do. What the world building allows you to do, that a lot of times a forced campaign. So if I was doing something for Deadpool, we would have lots of ideas, but some of them would be just forced ideas that connected to a brand or a product placement or something like that. In this case, what we've got stories that are supplemental to the existing books that people are reading or to the comic book. And so it actually connects to the stories, but is something that's broader and deeper. So people that want to do a deeper dive, great. Or if you just want to have fun with a little game that we've done that is connected, great. And that means that they get to play in this universe across a fairly broad media platform without it feeling like it's I love your phrase, a forced campaign.
And then there's this natural connection with SG yourself. Let's go back to Deadpool for an example there. I think a lot of the success behind Deadpool is the fact that Ryan Reynolds is out there. He's working on his own project and he's sharing that. I mean, I'm literally wearing his shirt right now.
Oh, you are?
So, but they're sitting there too. SG, they get to meet you. And like Jenny was talking about beforehand, that just makes it so much easier to read these books because they're like, oh, okay, I like this author. I want to get into that world. That's cool.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely an amazing experience, Frank, to have these events. And I thought I'm going to be so scared to do these events that I thought I'm shy. So when I first had my Comic-Con, it was a big surprise for all of us, including myself, that I had a blast. I'm hooked.
Oh, yeah. That's the hard part is trying to travel to all the places once you're hooked.
Right.
Well, speaking of Comic-Cons, the last booth I saw you guys have was this grand booth. You actually had actors out there. What is that like to see your world come to life in a little segment like that?
Frank, it is surreal. It is bizarre. It is magical. It is fantastical. It is a dream come true. It is all of this, and you don't have time to enjoy it because time to work, and I love my work. It's absolutely, there are no words to describe. It's just so unbelievable.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember which one. Do you remember, Jenny, which one it was? I know we took pictures of it and stuff like that.
I think it was at WonderCon. Well, no, but I saw you guys at LACC last year, too.
Yeah.
So we had it. We'll have another one at LACC this year and had it at San Diego. But I think specifically it was LACC and WonderCon. And those took place kind of in between book 1 and book 2. The one that we're doing at LACC this year that we'll take pictures and we'll send those over to you. It will take place before the show comes out is going to take place actually in book 5's environment. So what's really exciting is we actually caught up now through these events to the release of the book, and we can tie the book to the booth, to the experience, and immerse fans, not just when SG is sitting there going, hey, here's the book, here's the background, here's some really cool downloads for you, but they're actually walking around, immersing themselves in the environment. So we finally caught up, which is really cool.
Think about it as the fans too, who go regularly to these events, and they're seeing the booth progress too as they're following along the stories. That's just a fun experience.
It really is. And SG's got really cool, dedicated fans who come back to each event, even when we're not local to the West Coast, and they come over. And we've got, I think about 50 to 100 who show up every time. And that's just, that's amazing to see that. it's just crazy, and it is such a testament to SG's personality connecting with these fans and the writing that connects with these fans. It's one or the other can work, right? You can have the writing connect, but that no harm, no foul, no shade to throw. For some authors, that's not what they're going to do, right? They're going to put their work out there, and that's what they do, and that's great.
Yeah.
But to have the 1-2 punch of having the work out there and the connection personally with an author is, I just see it on their faces. It's like this glow, and they're so excited. And then they hang out at the booth and stay with us, and we get to know them. And that's really why I do this job, honestly, is to see that connection.
And when you think back to the authors, I think the ones everybody's popping in their head right now are the ones that find that balance between the two. I'm thinking of a few right now where I'm like, yeah, it's because I know the person.
Yeah, exactly. And again, there's lots. I mean, James Patterson is not going to go out to every single event in the world, and I get that. So there is no right or wrong way to do it. But from my point of view, to make that connection, especially, and I do have to say, in the sci-fi fantasy world, there is a difference, and there is a connection that needs to be made, whether you do it in person or not. It just means the world to fans. And it's the same thing that I tried to tell, and Frank, you and I have talked about this forever, tried to tell the studios that when you have that franchise and you're not making that connection, or worse, you've made the connection and you don't sustain it, you don't spend the time after you've made the connection, that fan's not going to come back. Or if they do, it will be lip service. They might pay to see the movie, but they're not going to spend other money, and they won't spend time with you. And what SG does is she allows these fans to be comfortable in their own space with her about the book. That is incredibly unique and very special.
Yeah, it's something that the big studios and the big authors are only trying to reach, and it comes naturally here. That is wonderful.
Yeah, that's right.
Now, SG, with all this new, you're meeting all these fans. It's out of your comfort zone a little bit there. Has there been any memorable fan moments or anything that stands out to you?
Frank, there have been so many unbelievable moments throughout this almost 2 year of events. Mm-hmm. I had returning fans from the beginning, so their jaw dropped when they saw that immersive booth, and they were so genuinely happy for where we're progressing. We have fans who travel to all these other events, and they bring their friends and family, and they're doing the pitch I did to them, and they're like, tell them the joke. It's just such an amazing feeling. And then, when they start hanging around, they feel more comfortable, of course. And then they tell me, they just love coming to my booth because then I joke with them. They laugh, they get to sit a little bit, and then they refresh, recharge, and they have even more fun. So it is such an amazing positive feedback loop, that I see them, I get happy. They see me, they get happy, and then I get even more happier, and then they get even more happier. And it really is such a beautiful connection. And every time I see them returning, it means the world to me.
And I gotta just, this is our first time actually meeting face to face, and I could tell already I'm more invested in the world than I'm already invested in, and so it's just really cool. I can imagine being at that booth and being like, right, I want the set.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly it.
Now, with all these new voices coming in from outside sources, again, fans and reviewers, has there been anything that you've learned about your own story that you maybe didn't realize was in there? Or maybe you wanted to kind of change and add more of it in?
Frank, the only thing I've learned is that readers can put it down, which was unbelievable. Some said it as a complaint because they stayed up till 3 a.m. I'm so sorry for that. And they had work in the morning. Yeah. And one of the most surprising compliment that I received from a fan was at London Comic Con, and for the Love of Fantasy event. And she said that her son read the book. Her son is, I believe, autistic. Mm-hmm. And the chapters were structured so well that he was able to immediately dive in and immerse and enjoy reading the book because it was, helping him to read the book. And that was amazing. That was such an amazing compliment.
That could fuel you for a year. That's amazing.
I told him,
I know.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, wow. Okay, you have this amazing story. We have a new book coming out this December, guys, and the links will be in the description to get involved as much as you can. How far out are you planning out this story? If you can tell us anything.
Well, I can tell you a lot. This is a 13-book series.
Oh,
I'm already hinting for the upcoming next 9-book series. And I'm already hinting for the upcoming 7-book series after that. And I'm working on a comic book series called The Mythical Hunters that happens before Jenny has that beautiful shirt.
There it is.
And that is 176 comics. So that's about 15 years of my life.
Jenny, you're going to be busy.
I know. That's what she tells me. I think I'm locked in. And it's the Mythical Hunters comic book series. We just premiered in July. Mm-hmm. And what's really fun about that is that's an all ages one. And it's really genuinely such an exciting adventure. It is truly an adventure. And there's some really good, I mean, I'm always liking whatever you're reading on New Comic Book Day, and we're talking about what comes out. But I'm really excited to add this to New Comic Book Day when we can start really getting these going, because it's such a cool, fun story. And it really is, again, sci-fi fantasy. It's action, it's adventure. It's got a female lead, but she's got essentially an assassin who's her partner. And then there's all these crazy mythical creatures. So it's everything you want in a comic book. It's visual, it's a great story, it's exciting. And the minute you finish it, you're like, whoa, come on. When's the next one?
Oh, yeah, that's the best. When can we see this new comic book series starting? Get an idea.
It already did. Yeah. So it's on the website. You can get the first issue through the website. You can get all the books through the website, plus merch from each of the 2 series. The last Luminian series, we've got enamel pins and Mythical Hunters. And then because SG doesn't have enough to do, she's got the 5th book coming in December. She's already started the 6th book and the 2nd comic book. So.
Oh my God.
That's all.
I wish I had your energy. How can I harness your energy, SG? I need to get this productivity in my life.
It's both sci-fi and fantasy, and it's a secret.
Yeah.
There you go. I love that. The 5th book coming in December. Now, we're going to have to spread the news. What are you guys doing to share the 5th book with everybody?
We tell everybody that we meet. We grab them on the street. Oh, no, I'm kidding. We're not supposed to grab people.
We'll be at LA Comic-Con. And obviously this comes out after, but we'll be there. But the big thing we're doing, which is really exciting, it's groundbreaking, is that we are working with Eventual and Scott Addison Clay on a brand new custom-made virtual platform. And we are doing a virtual book tour with SG. It'll be November 2nd, December 8th, and then a to-be-determined date in January. And it is RSVP. It's invite event-driven, but it's free. We are offering these first 3 events for free. And you'll be able to, we don't have the RSVP link yet, but we'll have it ready if you go to sgblaise.com and sign up for the newsletter. You'll get, especially since you'll sign up for the newsletter, you'll get the exclusive first link to the RSVP for the event. Yeah. And what we'll be doing is we're calling it Exploring the Galaxies of SG Blaise. And she's going to have special guests. She's going to have activations. And the most fun part of it is it's an interactive fan event. So she's going to be inviting special fans to come up onto the virtual stage with her. We're going to do fan art. We're going to do interviews. We're going to bring in cosplayers. So it's groundbreaking and it's really fun. And I am so thankful that SG was up for this because this is a really cool thing to do. So
that's neat.
I can't wait.
Yeah, and it's neat to be able to, like your working relationship with SG, try something new. Like you're talking about the activations is such a big thing right now. I'm seeing it like even X-Men's on board with these activations and stuff like that.
Right.
So it's cool to see it's on the cutting edge.
Yeah, exactly.
And then that newsletter, please guys, head to the description and sign up for the newsletter and all the links as well. Guys, this has been a fantastic discussion. I love talking with you, SG, and of course, Jenny, anytime. Thank you both for being with me today.
Oh, thank you so much, Frank. This was a blast.
All right, again, that's SG Blaise. She wrote the Last Lumerian franchise. Check that out. The first issue is free on Kindle right now, guys, so I can't suggest that enough. Thomas, here's things that are going down on the network. So Outlast Podcast has season 47, episode 5 coming out on Thursday. Who's Got Next Game Podcast is doing the Xbox 360 version of the tournament. It's been this season of tournaments they're doing, and that's coming out on Wednesday. Phantom Portals is exploring the inspiration behind the Legends of Vox Machina with Adam Brashear. So they're going over Critical Role and like the actual exact campaign that they're using for that.
That's awesome.
And then over on a little podcast we call Challenge Accepted, we're talking about Hangover and Agatha all along every Wednesday usually.
Yes.
When we can't get that
when
out
we
there.
can. Yep.
And then for the folks at home who maybe for some reason have been missing out, what is our next challenge coming up for Challenge Accepted?
Oh yeah, the next challenge, because we are in spooky season, is a very classic one. I'm happy you challenged me to it, which is The Shining.
Yes. Kubrick, it's going to be so good. Just in the 4K version of it, by the way, guys, if you get a chance, is so worth watching.
Also, know that my challenge will not be anywhere close to as good as that one. It's it's going to be way less of a less lauded movie, if you will.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Are you sticking to Halloween or no?
It's kind of Halloweeny.
Okay.
A little weenie.
Little weenie. There we go. As long as you stick to a little weenie, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And then 2 more announcements before we head out. So first off, we do have a new show that we are 42 days away from. We'll be trickling out some information on that, but it is a passion project. And to allot for this new show, we were taking a look at the numbers, taking a look at how much time something takes. This show, I think, is going to have a lot of long-lasting value to the network. In doing that, Headlines is going to be sunsetted. So we're going to go ahead and retire Headlines. We're still going to do some of the news videos, but it'll be more so what's coming up next on Geek Freaks. And so if you guys follow us on TikTok, follow us on Instagram, you're still going to get those. They won't be as often. You probably noticed over the last 2 weeks, the schedule has been different. And that's because I've been testing, can I do the schedule this way to allot for me doing a new project? That's it right there. But the actual Headlines podcast will be fully sunsetted. It'll just be on the social media accounts that are pushing for new Geek Freak stuff. So I appreciate everybody who hung out with Headlines. I really love that podcast. But it's one of those things where when you're a podcast host and you make a lot of a podcast, you got to see where the numbers are at. You got to lean into it or not. And that's just how it is. It's one of the things that sucks about when you're doing a news podcast. Geek Freaks has a little bit of this too, where it's like, hey, I put in a lot of work on this thing, and it has a day to be of use, and then suddenly that news is no good anymore. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, that's tricky, man. How am I going to learn about all the new stuff going on now without you doing headlines though? Dang.
There's plenty of other places that I'll be sharing them all along the way. Follow us on Threads and stuff like that. We're always over there. You also notice because Headlines is being sunsetted, our social media feeds will be changing slightly. It will be basically the same though. But it's just little things behind that. All right, awesome. So we're going to be leaving with this episode with our recommendations. My recommendation for you guys is to check out The Last Lumerian. Again, the first book is completely free. The entire book is completely free on Kindle. I can't suggest it enough. They're coming out with the 5th issue in December. And SG Blaise, her dedication. I love how she wrote this book because she was trying to find a book that would be captivating to her son. So it's like this whole fantasy storyline and stuff like that. And she gauges how interested her son is while she's writing it. And that is freaking cool because it's very fast paced. What is a recommendation for you?
Yeah, I'll drop a recommendation, but I also want to say I've met SG Blaise before too, and she's so sweet. Like just from like somebody you want to support just because of how cool they are and how nice they are. Like she's one of them. So on that note, like I can't push that book enough either. Like she's so awesome. Yeah. But my recommendation is also something that's not very nerdy. I'd say it's pretty off the beaten path a little bit, but I really dug this show. Me and my wife watched it all together. And I was so surprised how much I liked it. But it's called Nobody Wants This. And it stars Kristen Bell and Adam Brody on Netflix. Yeah. And it's kind of a rom-com, but it's very much it's not like super rom-com-y. And it's also like guys, I think, can enjoy it as well. But pretty damn funny. It's super funny. So yeah, I'd say check that out if you have a chance.
There you go. Okay. That does sound good. I've been seeing the ads for it or whatever popping up. So So much good stuff to watch.
Yeah, already got renewed for a season 2. You know, like sometimes Netflix takes forever. Like it took forever for them to tell us about One Piece or about Avatar: The Last Airbender. But this show, like within the last 2 weeks after it launched, it was like, yeah, you're getting season 2. So
that's so
pretty
nice.
good.
They canceled, what was it, Chaos or whatever. One of the newer ones that they just had too. And it was like, why did you guys cancel that? A movie that I was surprised by. It's called Ready or Not. It's out of Australia, but it's They just put it on Hulu and it's kind of blowing up all of a sudden. I just watched it a couple days ago and it was I loved it. It was a lot of fun. And they just like, boom, okay, we're going to give you a second one then. Just because it came out in 2019 to nothing. And now that it's on social or streaming, it's doing really well. So we're getting another one of those too.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. Because I did a review on Abigail and it's the same directors. And it's so cool. It's like, you know, Everything Everywhere All at Once, they go by the Daniels. But those guys, like the ones from Ready or Not and Abigail go by Radio Silence. Is like their director name.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. And Abigail was a fun movie too. I need to dive into Ready or Not, but like they have like a pretty good relationship, I think, with that actress. So, I mean, yeah, that was a sleeper hit for a lot of people. I got to check that out.
I haven't seen Abigail yet, but it was so hard doing the research for the article of this being announced because I'm like, Radio Silence is the studio, right? Like, why does it keep putting this as a person's name here and stuff like that? It took me a while to understand that.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And those guys, like, I mean, it's just cool when you can go by like a name, you know, again, like Daniels, Radio Silence, like it's just so sick. But they're really funny too. And it's really interesting, you know, because they're not brothers. They're not related. The way they work together, it's almost like the Russo brothers, but they're two heads of the same dragon, if you will. Like they're just kind of, when one falls off, the other one picks it up. And yeah, it's just a really impressive team. I'm stoked that they're making another movie.
That's cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys. Again, thank you very much for hanging out with us, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.